I hate making videos like this, especially when it pertains to one of the more promising players in the NBA and an individual that literally could be the future of the NBA based upon how his career goes. But the fact of the matter remains that the NBA is a little bit of a game of roulette. Yes, there is a portion of your career that you control, but at the same time, you're leaving a lot up to chance. And in the case of LaMelo Ball, man, the part where he doesn't control isn't looking so good for him, and we have empirical data to prove it to you. Because not only is LaMelo Ball having a remarkable season by his own standards, but the Charlotte Hornets are stagnating. They have one of the worst records in the NBA right now, and although there is a light at the end of the tunnel, history isn't necessarily on LaMelo Ball's side for him to get to that light. So before we get to the content, I wanted to apologize. I am currently in Istanbul right now, and my lighting isn't necessarily the greatest. The camera work might be a little off, and I apologize if this video got to you way later than I wanted it to. And now that we got all that out of the way, cue the intro. Sponsored by PrizePicks. You guys know PrizePicks has been my latest obsession because I live in California. There's no way that you could gamble on games in California, so the best way you could get action on games is through PrizePicks. And ever since I partnered with them, we've been having a lot of fun. And before we get to the latest promo, I want to give a huge shout out to my man Nasri Hasbun, who tweeted me a six-legged pick that he hit on as a result of our last promo, which means he 25x'd his money. And that's freaking awesome. Hopefully more of my subs hit this big as a result of today's promo. As a matter of fact, it's not only today's promo, because from this day and on until Christmas Day, PrizePicks is releasing a brand new promo every day, and it's called Picksmas. All you have to do is download PrizePicks, use my promo code microphone to get up to a $100 deposit match, and then just log into PrizePicks each and every day to see what they're offering for that day. Since they're offering a brand new promo each and every day, I'm probably going to be posting my picks onto my Instagram story. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I literally play PrizePicks each and every day. So huge shout out to PrizePicks for the sponsorship. Make sure you sign up with my promo code microphone or the link in the description down below. And thank you, PrizePicks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The 2020 NBA draft was one of the most unique NBA drafts we've had in quite some time, because not only was this an NBA draft that occurred literally 3 weeks before the 2020 to 2021 season, but the prospects that were in this NBA draft were very polarizing. At the top of the board, you had a player like Anthony Edwards, who seemed to have all the talent in the world, but there was questions that were surrounding his love of the game of basketball, based upon interviews like this.
You were quoted saying that you really just can't get into watching basketball if you're not playing. You're a football guy.
Football is fun to watch, but I love basketball to death. So I love to watch basketball anytime. Like the playoffs, I watch the playoffs because they compete for real, like they're playing defense, but just regular season games, some teams don't always compete. They don't bring it every time.
Where Anthony Edwards would say, to be honest, I can't watch basketball. I'm still not really into it. I love basketball. Yeah, it's what I do. Which it's kind of a red flag whenever any prospect says that, considering how you need to watch film in order to really better your game, but that's besides the point. The Golden State Warriors had the number 2 overall pick, and they were faced with a very difficult decision between James Wiseman and LaMelo Ball. This was a few days after Klay Thompson tore his Achilles in addition to tearing his ACL, and the Golden State Warriors opted for James Wiseman, which so far is looking like a horrific mistake. This made the life of the Charlotte Hornets significantly easier. I don't necessarily think the selection of LaMelo Ball was as a result of phenomenal scouting. I think it was an instance of, hey, you don't have Anthony Edwards available, James Wiseman isn't going to fall to your lap either, so just take the best prospect available. Luckily for them, the best prospect available was arguably the top prospect in the entire draft, or at the very minimum, a top 3 prospect in the entire draft, with the best 3 players of that draft being so far being Tyrese Halliburton, Anthony Edwards, and LaMelo LaMelo Ball? Let me know in the comment section down below what order you will put that in. This is a remarkable situation for the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, I don't understand why LaMelo Ball wasn't the #1 overall pick based upon how much his family emphasized the game of basketball to him as he was growing up as a child. I mean, the way LeVar Ball made basketball sound in his household is how my parents made medicine sound in my household. I mean, I'm sure we have those types of parents out there. Some people can relate to this. I mean, very big on academia, very big on trying to become a doctor or a lawyer of some sort. That's how LeVar Ball pushed basketball on his kids. He's still pushing Jello to be a basketball player to this day. So you clearly have a franchise-altering talent, and it didn't take that long for LaMelo Ball to show that to the Charlotte Hornets. There was a lot to be excited about for the Charlotte Hornets at that point. In his rookie season, LaMelo Ball averaged 15 points per game, tossed 6 assists per game, grabbed 6 rebounds per game, shot 35% from 3, and clearly showed that he belongs in this league. But that wasn't the only thing going right for the Charlotte Hornets. In year 2, LaMelo Ball became even better. His points per game averages jumped to 20 points per game. He was shooting 39% from 3, which is absolutely insane. Anytime you're getting a guard that shoots 36% from 3 and higher, you clearly hit on a player that could be special. To give you an idea, Luka Doncic averages about 34% from 3. But in addition to LaMelo Ball's success, you also saw Miles Bridges really stepping up for the Charlotte Hornets after betting on himself. Miles Bridges' agent told him to reject the contract extension that the Charlotte Hornets offered to him. And in the 2021 to 2022 season, Miles Bridges himself averaged 20 points per game and shot 33% from 3. Now, obviously, things would kind of trend downward after this because over this offseason, we've covered extensively on this channel, Miles Bridges got into a domestic dispute with the mother of his child. It got really ugly. The mother recorded the child even describing the events of the incident. We have a video on that if you want to catch up on it. And as a result, the Charlotte Hornets had a huge void to fill. They needed to figure out a means of replacing one of their most promising players. Miles Bridges to this day is without a contract. And in this past offseason, a very crucial offseason for the Charlotte Hornets, the way they decided to fight back through this adversity was by doing very little to nothing at all. They only made one move this offseason, and that's re-signing Cody Martin. But on top of this, they did something very strange as well. Don't get me wrong, James Borrego got into it with LaMelo Ball fairly consistently, but the Charlotte Hornets at the minimum were a play-in team. They finished 43-39 during the 2021 to 2022 season. They were 4th in the league in points per game. Their defense definitely left something to be desired, and they were in the top 10 in offensive rating. But in the offseason, the Charlotte Hornets were in a situation where they wanted a better head coach. And obviously, you should consistently try to improve your head coach whenever you can. So they went after Kenny Atkinson, a head coach that I personally will always endorse. I mean, you saw what Kenny Atkinson was able to do with a team of castaways with the Brooklyn Nets. Spencer Dinwiddie developed like crazy. D'Angelo Russell became an all-star. Jarrett Allen really took the next step in the evolution of his game. Karis LeVert became one of the best role players in the league, and the Brooklyn Nets were dancing on the sidelines as they made it to the NBA playoffs. Now, ultimately, the Nets would have to gut out that core to bring in Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and eventually KD and Kyrie wouldn't want Kenny Atkinson to be their head coach. But obviously, if you're the Charlotte Hornets with a bunch of young talent and you're looking at Kenny Atkinson's body of work, considering how he was the assistant coach of the Golden State Warriors as well, this is a guy you want on your sidelines. Kenny Atkinson looked at the Charlotte Hornets situation and for some reason just completely did a 180. He said, there's no way, shape, or form I want to go there. This left the Charlotte Hornets with their Johnson in their hands. They had no idea what to do at this point, so they hired their ex-head coach Steve Clifford, which at the time I thought, okay, this might work out. Steve Clifford, huge emphasis on defense, but so far it's been a gigantic disaster. At the time that we're recording this video, the Charlotte Hornets are still a single-digit win team, and this is despite LaMelo Ball performing phenomenally this year. I mean, unprecedented averages for him throughout the first 10 games of this season, shooting 38% from 3, averaging 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists, already contributing 0.6 win shares. But the problem is, LaMelo Ball appears to be in the same trap that has confined the best players in NBA history and has relegated them to just subpar players in NBA history. But unfortunately, LaMelo Ball is in the same trap that most players that go to small market teams that are horrifically mismanaged are in. My good friend AM Hoops really did a good job doing a deep dive on the dysfunction organization of the Charlotte Hornets. And one of the best examples that he gives is really a testament to the greatness of LeBron James. LeBron James was drafted to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers were a horrible team before LeBron James, and currently they're trending upward, but this was a team that just didn't know how to surround LeBron with good talent. The best talent they had, Carlos Boozer, for lack of a better way of saying it, bamboozled them to get out of his contract and sign a bigger contract with the Utah Jazz. Now, obviously, there's a bigger story there. The Cleveland Cavaliers had a handshake agreement with Carlos Boozer that if he opted out of his contract, then they would sign him to a bigger contract, but the Utah Jazz offered an even larger contract, so Carlos Boozer kind of backstabbed the Cavaliers. But apart from that, man, the Cavs couldn't get anyone else for LeBron to play with. They chased after Amari Stoudemire. They ended up settling for a past his prime Shaquille O'Neal and Antoine Jameson. And the fact that LeBron was able to take them to the heights that he was able to take them during his first stint is nothing short of amazing. It was a huge reason why LeBron James left. And that's why it seems like LaMelo Ball is going to be in this situation at least until the end of 2027. That's the unfortunate reality of today's NBA, which also is kind of beautiful if you think about it. If you look at a player like Donovan Mitchell, for instance, the Utah Jazz hit on Donovan Mitchell during the 2017 NBA draft. They were able to compete consistently with Donovan Mitchell as their franchise cornerstone. But once they wanted to trade Donovan Mitchell while he was in the midst of his second contract, which was the rookie max extension that players typically get if they're very successful during their very first contract, the first 4 years of their career, they were able to get a plethora of assets in return for him, which ultimately sent Donovan Mitchell to the Cleveland Cavaliers, made the Cleveland Cavaliers contenders, while also sending multiple draft picks back to the Utah Jazz to help them with their rebuild. That's why this rule is in place, to avoid another instance of Shaquille O'Neal leaving the Orlando Magic to join the Los Angeles Lakers within the first 5 years of his career. And this is where it gets scary for LaMelo Ball, because it doesn't seem like the Charlotte Hornets are capable of surrounding him with good talent consistently. Don't get me wrong, they're currently in contract discussions with Miles Bridges to try to bring him back, but apart from that, it doesn't seem like there's anything else that they could really do to put good talent around LaMelo. And on top of this, they are historically bad. But as I promised you, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a part of me that feels like Steve Clifford of this year is essentially what Mike Brown was to the Cleveland Cavaliers during the 2014 season when he came back for a second stint. He is just there to be a lame duck head coach so they could tank out this year and try to get themselves Victor Wembanyama, or hell, even Scoot Henderson at this point, which currently the odds are very much in their favor to try to achieve that. And that would be one of the best ways to get LaMelo Ball some help. A tandem of him and Victor Wembanyama, or even Scoot Henderson, would be fantastic for the future of the Charlotte Hornets, assuming they don't screw it up even further. There's a lot that this team needs to overcome in order to get to the path of success. One is the ineptitude of Michael Jordan in the construction of his teams. I mean, you're talking about a guy that consistently drafts horribly, who turned down the Boston Celtics trade offer of multiple first-round picks so he could take Frank Kaminsky in the NBA draft. And although Mitch Kupchak is his general manager now, Michael Jordan has a say in these decisions. And at the end of the day, as a result of all of this, I have significant amounts of pessimism for LaMelo Ball. I'm scared that he's going to become the next coming of Chris Paul, the next coming of Damian Lillard, although Damian Lillard should be applauded for his loyalty that he consistently reminds us of, the next coming of Carmelo Anthony, although Carmelo Anthony had good teams during the prime of his career, or the next coming of Bradley Beal. And there are ways to avoid that from happening, but it's purely from the NBA draft, and it's purely from a talent development perspective. And based upon how the Charlotte Hornets failed to develop multiple of their young players throughout the past decade, including Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Malik Monk, Cody Zeller, Noah Vonleh, which, bear in mind, Noah Vonleh and Michael Kidd-Gilchrist were developmental projects that the Charlotte Hornets failed. So part of me is not necessarily the most optimistic about the Charlotte Hornets being able to succeed with developing players in the NBA draft. But I want to get your take on the matter. Do you really think LaMelo Ball is screwed as much as I'm saying he is? Or do you think I'm really over-exaggerating at this point? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.